This is, I could almost do this without a thermometer. I've done it enough. It's too cold to bathe in, but it's warm. The idea of this step is to bring the temperature up. It's 8, 9, and get a little thick, and that's alright. There's 10. We got 10 quarts. This is sanitized. I'm going to leave it in there. I'm going to put the lid back on. Alright, and so we're going to bring this up to a boil slowly over the next 40 minutes. And then once this is brought to a boil, then I'm going to add it all right back to the mash. That will bring the temperature up to our first rest, which is a beta rest. I'm going to stop. I'll give you the exact temperature in a minute. I got to look. It's in the mid 130s. So I'll be back in a minute when this is brought to a boil. Want to keep a pot from boiling? Leave your wood spoon in it. I learned that a long time ago. Stir it. You just stir it enough to keep the grain from scorching on the bottom, because anybody that knows anything about beer knows the difference between a roast and a burnt flavor, so you're not going to fool anybody except maybe some of your friends. So you got to stir it periodically. Take your spoon out, and here you see it coming to a boil now. So what I'm going to do, it's been about 40 minutes, so I'm going to raise that temperature about 3 degrees a minute over the course of 40 minutes. Let it boil, I better stir it, shut off here and stir it quicker, I might get a boil over. But I'm going to add it back to the mash, and I'll be back with you in a second on that one. Okay. I've added the decoction back to the mash. I'm going to stir it up, and I will have overshot my temperature. I think I misspoke. I want 144 at this first rest, this beta rest. So what I find is, put my thermometer in, wait for it to even out. Got my grains now steeping in water that's about 170. Now what I've learned is if I just take a half to 3/4 of a gallon of room temperature or 60-degree water, I'm going to bring my, there's a half, let me stir it up. Check it again. Still a bit high, so I'm going to keep going here. Nice ratio you're supposed to get for the amount of water you put to grain. With this, I'm still within that. Number of gallons per quart. There are formulas for that, and I don't know off the top of my head what that ratio is, but I've done my research and I know. And there we are. It's going to even out at about 144 for me. So we're going to let this rest for an hour, and I'll be back when that's ready to go again to the next step. Okay, here we are. It's been an hour. Check once or twice to make sure I'm still on my target temperature, so I'm going to stick this into the grain bed now. And I'm going to trust that my temperatures will get me where I want. There are tests. Get a little iodine, and you can test the conversion here. Again, from experience, it's not really necessary. For consistency, I'm making the same beer I make year-round, and it's pretty good. So, right there, 144 hasn't budged a degree. Alright, so the next step is to move my decoction pot back. I'm going to take the same 10-quart decoction. This time I'm going to raise the temperature not quite to boiling. I'm going to go between 184 and 190. And when I add that back, I'll have my second rest temperature, which is going to be in the low 150s. tun because I have a line inside my pot. So I put the lid back on. We're going to let that continue on. So that's about half my mash. Okay, so we're bringing the second decoction up. I don't want it, as I said, quite to a boil. I want it to just under 190. And then I'm going to add that back. My beer, by the way, is on my third or fourth one, so the skunkiness is a bit less noticeable. Gets more enjoyable as we go. That's the good news. Okay, so my second decoction's at right where I want it, just under 190. Second decoction is very thin compared to the first, simply because it's meant to be added back to the mash to step the temperature up. Obviously, I can't heat my plastic mash tun, so I need to do it this way. And this is the way medieval brewers did it too. Before they had thermometers, they knew that if they, based on things being boiling, on adding it back, it could really refine things. First decoction, talking about the consistency of probably Campbell's vegetable soup. The second decoction would be more like wonton soup. So I'm going to take it off the burner now, and I'm going to add that back to the mash tun. I'm going to give it 1 more hour. This will be the alpha rest, and I'm going to keep it right in the range of about 152, which is low in the alpha acid or the alpha rest range, and that's the last conversion step. When I'm done, I should have a complete conversion of my starch to sugar, and we'll begin the sparge process after that. Okay, so here we are taking the lid off our mash tun. Need towels for this. Very hot, don't want to burn yourself. I take one like this, I get one into the bottom. In it goes. I'm going to place it to the side. I like to clean things as I go. So we're done with the decoction pot. It will become a liquor tank again. I'm going to take it in, and while we're resting here, I will heat my sparge water. Sparging is just a process of rinsing water through the grain bed, and oops, got my 1 quart thing in there still. Don't need that anymore either. So let's stir this up. Let's check our temperature. If I overshot with my decoction, I'm not afraid to add back a little cold water again. I still got room where I exceed that 2-to-1 ratio, which I, in my mind, like to keep. Inching up, and bingo, 152. There we go. Should taste just like my last batch.